Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to those who have been watching all of our presentations that we've had so far today. We've got a great presentation from one of our gold sponsors, Garmin, coming right up, and we really thank them for their support. But before I get started, I'd just like to thank all of our National Safety Month sponsors. We've got over $10,000 worth of giveaways throughout the month of October, and we couldn't do it if it weren't for the support of our sponsors. Of course, Garmin is a gold sponsor of National Safety Month. You can find out more information about their products at www.garmin.com, and please do ask lots of questions as we go through today if you've got any for our Garmin representative who's joining us for this presentation. Just before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping for those who haven't joined us in previous discussions. On the right-hand side of your page, you should see a panel with a Q&A box. In there, you can type your questions for Garmin today. If that chat box is not open, there should be a blue chat button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you hit that, that side panel should open up and you can type your questions in the Q&A section. There is also a handout that Garmin has put together for us in the handouts panel, which you can download with more information there. So on that note, I will welcome in our presenter for today. Good afternoon, Miko.
Hello there. How are you? How are you all?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. And thank you, RAOS, for letting us sponsor and be part of the Safety Month. I took part in one of these. We did a speech, I don't know, it was back in January, I think, this year. So I'm glad to be back again and talk more.
Absolutely. And once again, we're really thankful for the support. So a big shout out and thank you to Garmin as well. On that note, I'll jump into the background and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's get started here. So let me quickly introduce myself here. So welcome everyone. So it's Miko Koloma. I'm the Aviation Regional Sales Manager for Australia and New Zealand. And I'm very glad to be speaking to you all this morning or afternoon, depending where you are. So let's go here. When I was going to take part, when I realized I'm going to do a presentation for this event, I started thinking about the safety aspects of Garmin equipment. And I'm thinking, what should I talk about? And very quickly realized that all of our equipment actually has got some sort of safety implication on it. I can't think of a one single item from the Garmin catalog that is like a gadget that has got no safety implication. So I picked a few sort of topics here that we're going to talk about now. And so let's get started there. So we're going to chat about the Garmin electronic flight display system and indicators. Then on to the autopilots, followed by the ADS-B solution, which is kind of timely because after this presentation, there's the CASA presentation on ADS-B. We're going to talk a little bit about aviation portables, the new Smart Glide, which you may have heard of, system. And then at the end, we'll go through if you've had any questions, and I can answer some of those. So electronic flight instrument systems and indicators. So here's a great panel. I guess that's an RV or something like that. And we have a pair of the 10-inch G3X displays on here. On the left-hand side, we have a G5 instrument. In the middle, there's a GTN XI 750 IFI navigator and an audio panel and also the autopilot controller. But we're going to talk a little bit more about all these individual items. So let's get into the G3X system. So screens, you can have three different types. So we have a 10-inch landscape display, the big one there. Also two 7-inch, either in the portrait or landscape versions. They're scalable, configurable, and expandable. What that means is you can start with this, single, let's say, a 7-inch display, and you can always build up to a later on. And you could have up to 4 displays all up in your aircraft. It is a complete electronic flight instrument system solution with the primary flight display, a multifunction display, and engine instrument system as well as an option. It uses high reliable digital sensors and LRU, so line replaceable units. So they're the black boxes behind the panel. And yes, all digital, there's no moving parts in them, so there's nothing to wear out. There's no bearings, none of that business. All solid state. Interface available for a variety of panel and remote mount avionics. So we have a massive selection of different units, boxes, LRUs that you can interface with the displays and control them through the display. It also has a Bluetooth capability, and it can display ADS-B data. We call the Bluetooth capability, or any of the Garmin wireless capabilities, there's a marketing name called Connect. So if you ever see Connect mention any of our literature, it always refers to some sort of wireless connectivity. So the standard PFD, so the primary flight display or multifunction display features include the smart light, which I'll talk about later on, the synthetic vision, so that for terrain, obstacles, traffic alerts, and airport markings. Ability to display ADS-B in data source. Obviously, you will need a source, but it'll display that source. So you can have a ADS-B transponder or a GDL data link, which will receive ADS-B in information and display it on the G3X display. 3D pathways, which is basically like a highway in the sky. They're like a magenta box that you can fly through, and that's the pathways. You can have a flight director display and autopilot annunciations. That's if you have the autopilot option, all the functions will be shown on the display. It has a built-in VFR GPS, automatic reversion remotes. What that means is if you have a multi-display system and one of the displays fail, you sort of get a compacted view on the remaining display. So, for example, in this case, if the if the primary display, the big one, failed, you would actually get that primary flight display showing on that 7-inch, one of the 7-inch displays there. It has a Garmin user interface accessible by touch or button and knob command. So if it's obviously touch screens, but also they have two rotary on the 10-inch display. It has two rotary dual concentric knobs that you can use, and then also a button. So you can do most of the functions straight through the buttons if you're in heavy turbulence, for example. And as for the touchscreen, if you have a look closely on the displays, there is a little ledge underneath on the bottom of the display, and what it's for there is you can actually brace your thumb on that, and then use your fingers for the touch display. So that way it gives you like a if you're in a bumpy air, you can still control your hand better and touch where you want to touch. Gives you a bit of a reference point. Display formats. I thought I'd throw some of these slides in here. I apologize for the quality of some of the images, but if you're new to electronic flight displays and a bit unaware of how to fly, airspeed and altitude tapes and so forth, or you're flying school and you want to instruct in standard 6-pack, you can actually choose this kind of display format. So it looks like a standard 6-pack, but it's obviously all electronic. And as you then continue using it, get more comfortable with it, you can start adding and changing the display in kind of increments. So in this display now, we've turned the attitude indicator into a full screen. So you can see the horizon line goes across the whole display there, but you still have the standard, 5 instruments left. And then you can go one step further and introduce the synthetic vision in the background. So you can see that the green ground and the water is depicted in blue. And in this particular image, you can actually see that highway in the sky that I mentioned earlier. But you still have round dials for altitude and airspeed and vertical speed as well. And then finally, when you're completely comfortable with flying the glass, so to speak, you can then go onto the tapes where the round instruments are now replaced by airspeed and altitude and vertical speed tapes rather than round dials. The system is made up of obviously a display or multitude of displays, and then there'll be some of the black boxes, so to speak. So we have a GSU-25, which is the ADA unit, which takes in various inputs and turns that into the the attitude and the airspeed and the altitude depictions. And into that we'll feed outside air temperature probe, obviously pitot and static sources, and the magnetometer, which gives you the magnetic heading, basically your compass. You can add an optional EIS, so that's the engine instrument system. It's another black box. It's for complete engine monitoring for piston and turbine engines. It's configurable for split screen or full screen. So in this case, we can see the larger display, the 10-inch displays there on the left-hand side. It has the the round engine instruments, and on the right-hand side, it has looks like some cylinder head temperature perhaps, and other instruments. Or you can have it like on the smaller display there, so the whole display is populated by the engine information. What we support all the typical piston engine stuff. So Continentals, Lycomins, Rotax, and even some FADEC models. You can have it as for a turbine aircraft. And if you happen to have a twin engine aircraft, you just need 2 of those black boxes, the GEA-24s. And if you have an old Warbird or something with 7 to 12 cylinders, you will also need a second GEA-24 just to get all the cylinders into the displays. Highly customizable, so all those dials and indicators can be customized, and alert levels set up for your preferences. And you could even have it so it will talk to you if you exceed a performance level. If you go into a red line or yellow line, it'll warn you about those, orally, and also like a flashing indication on your display. We can have discrete inputs for anything that you really can think of. So door and canopy pins and alerts, landing gear, up and down, fuel, oil pressure, anything you can think of that you can have an on-off switch for. You can then customize it and depict it on the G3X displays. So as I mentioned earlier, the G3X system can be used as a remote control for a variety of Garmin systems and units. So VHF COM, so if you had a pair of remote mounted comms or even panel mounted, you can actually control them straight through the display. If you were to press on either one of those COM1 or COM2 boxes there that are highlighted in red, you can then change the frequencies and so forth. And if you had a remote nav unit, you can do the same through there. So you can just tune up the right nav frequency. Audio panels, drive a remote audio panel. And if you were to touch those 3 buttons at the top there, they will bring up this audio intercom page on the multifunction side of the display. And you can then do selections through there. If you have a remote transponder, you can do it through the screen. If you have a traffic system, it will display it on here. You can also control it. I want to talk about a little bit about the target trend that you can see there. So those kind of vector lines coming off the green and the yellow lines coming off the aircraft are what's known as target trend. So in this case, that roughly shows where that target will be in the next 60 seconds. So if we were to look at that target at about 2 o'clock there, which is 900 feet below us, in 60 seconds that can become actually an alert because it gets quite close to us. So it's a good way when the Garmin traffic systems are used, can be ADS-B as well. It gives you that target trend, and it's a great reference to see what's the relative movement of the other aircraft to you. And then autopilot, you can control the autopilot through the screens as well. Obviously, we can integrate to our navigators, so the GTN series IFR navigators, as well as the what we know as the 2-inch navigators, the budget-friendly, the lower-cost ones. And these interface very nicely with the G3X system, and it's quite a common installation actually. Additional features for the G3X system, the G5 backup integration. So they talk to one another, the G3X system and the G5. So for example, if you change your altitude bug, the G5 will also synchronize with that. The G3X Touch can display angle of attack information. You can have a video input. a vertical power integration. So that's the electronic circuit breakers made by Vertical Power. It can be controlled through the screen. And then obviously the Connect stuff. So we have, your GDL system can talk to it. The Garmin Pilot app can talk to it wirelessly. You can have a wireless, you can control a camera wirelessly, and so forth. Okay, so the G5. Electronic flight instrument. It's a primary or backup flight instrument. In an experimental aircraft, you have the great option of having one of these, and you can actually change the display between the primary flight display, as the top image shows there, or the HSI version. So by pressing a button, you can swap between those two displays. In a certified aircraft, you can't do that because of the certification rules. But yes, in an experimental, you just press a button and you can swap between the two displays. It's a full built-in ADAS, so that's air data attitude system built into it. It is a 3.5-inch LCD display that fits in a standard 3 1/8 instrument cutout hole, so a round hole. EFIS or the DT HSI capabilities. Autopilot backup control has a built-in VFR GPS, and you can optionally interface it to an external GPS as well. And a 4-hour backup battery, optional. If you were to add one of these little gizmos to your G5, that's the silver one on the top right there, it will give you outside air temperature, which then gives you true airspeed, and with true airspeed and ground speed and all the heading and all that, you can get wind direction and speed, and also density altitude. So when you start up the G5 on the ground, it'll give you the density altitude right there, and it is compatible with the Garmin's outside air temperature probe or a third-party Davtron probe. And these features are for standalone installation of the G5, or if you have a G3X, it would then actually get that information from the G3X, so you wouldn't need this little gizmo. So the outside air temperature and the true airspeed and all that can be still displayed on the G5. Right, autopilots. The GFC 500. So the cutting edge design and reliability. We kind of started with the blank page when Garmin started talking about designing an autopilot. And I guess the biggest differentiator between a traditional autopilot and the Garmin ones are the servos. So they're completely digital. There's a brushless DC motor, and there's no mechanical slip clutch. So traditionally, the control forces are controlled by a mechanical clutch. In the Garmin servos, you're actually just driving against the electric motor within the servo, but since it's a brushless motor, it doesn't hurt it in any way. And because of that, you get improved performance and reduced maintenance. So there's no more, tightening up your slip clutches and so forth. It's all done electronically. And what's great about that is you can electronically control it. So when you install this with the G3X system, you go through the installation menus and you set up all the torques and values and gains just electronically into the servos. It is very lightweight yet powerful, so that DC motor is pretty gutsy. And if you ever come to any of our displays at various shows, we usually have a GSA 28 servo on the bench powered up, and you can feel the how much force you can actually put out that little. It's quite a small unit. In a GFC 500 autopilot system, up to 3 control servos plus 2 trim servos. So you could have your pitch roll and yaw controls, plus then a trim for elevator and even ailerons. When the thing is when it's or not engaged or unengaged or disengaged, the servo puts no friction on your flight control, so you will not feel that the flight control the servo is actually installed. It is very light movement or frictionless when it's not powered up. Automatic trim included. What that means is for your elevator. So if it senses that you're constantly holding your controls, it'll start auto trimming the elevator trim to take remove those control forces. And then the trim speed scheduling capability. What that means is it will adjust the speed of the elevator trim based on your airspeed. So obviously, the faster you go, the smaller movement of the trim you need. So it'll drive the trim slightly slower compared to if you're flying, low airspeed. It'll trim the trim faster. Delivers traditional autopilot functions, which is things like the heading hold, the altitude hold, approach modes. So on top of all that, we also have a level mode. So that's the blue button there. So if you ever press that button, it basically brings the aircraft automatically to straight and level flight. So it's a kind of a reset button. It comes with a Garmin ESPX. So that's the electronic stability and protection. As part of that, there's underspeed protection, which helps to prevent a stall. So if you're flying very slow, it'll start pushing the nose down and also give you a bit of a call out that warn you that your airspeed is a bit low. It's clever enough not to push you down though if you're very low. So if you come into approach or something like that, or you're flying low for whatever reason, it knows not to push your nose down. And overspeed protection, obviously the opposite. So if you're flying, if you're descending and you're getting close to your max speed, it will actually pull the nose up to try to slow you down. It also has the autopilot also has airspeed climb and descent mode, so you can you use indicated airspeeds as your climbing or descending mode. So it'll adjust your pitch of the aircraft to hold that airspeed. It has a flight director mode, which means that you can have the flight director bars up and shown, but the servos are not engaged. So you're hand flying it following the flight director. CWS, which is control wheel steering. So if you press the button, you can momentarily disengage the servos and adjust your flight attitude. And then once you release it, it'll hold it at that new mode. And also supports takeoff and go around mode. So you can, if you're doing an approach and you have to do a go around, you can press a button and it'll automatically drive the flight director, and also the autopilot will start pitching up. So just to expand on the Garmin ESPX, so standard on all Garmin autopilots, it functions independently of the autopilot. So you could have the autopilot off, and if the system senses that you're flying, you're banking or you're pitching too much, it'll actually engage and try to bring you back to more normal attitude. So if you're flying along and for some reason you get a little bit disorientated, you start rolling to the right, let's say, you get to a certain degrees, which you can set up, and the system it'll nudge. So it'll engage the servos and give you a bit of a nudge to, hey, come on, wake up, you're rolling too far. And if the roll attitude is, keeps going further and further, it'll actually then proper engage and start driving the servo. So it'll drive against you. And even if it senses that you're not taking control of the aircraft well enough, it'll eventually turn on the level mode. So it'll try to bring the aircraft to straight and level, because it thinks that maybe you have some sort of medical condition or whatever, and it kind of resets on the straight and level mode. It can be overpowered. So if it does engage and you want to, for some reason, you want to keep the nose up, you can actually dispower. That the servos will keep driving, but you can overpower it, and you can also manually disable it. So if you want to do stall practice or you want to do some aerobatics, you can actually you can disable the system by a sequence of button presses. Architecture. It'll start with the simplest system. Start with the G5. So it needs an attitude source, and you can have one or two servos. And with the G5 system, you will need a control panel. So that is the simplest GFC 500 autopilot for your experimental aircraft. And you're looking at, I don't know, somewhere around $5,000 for this system. So it's pretty affordable. You can replace the G5 with the G3X system. So in this case, if you just want a simple autopilot, you can control it through the display, as shown here, and you have your pair of servos. You can additionally add an optional control panel. So you can even if we have the big display, you can control the autopilot through the display or through the control panel. A lot of pilots prefer the control panel because it has tactile knobs and the thumb wheels and things like that. Right, let's get on to ADSB solutions. So obviously this is a big topic at the moment, with the a big push from the from CASA and Air Services really for the VFR solution for ADSB. So Garmin transponder. So we don't do like a low cost transponder option or ADSB option as such. So ours is all based on the transponder technology, so 1090 megahertz. We have for remote, so like the remote mount unit shown there on the top picture. So we have the GTX35R, which is an ADSB out, and the GTX45R, which is the ADSB in and out. So with that 45, you will get the ADSB in traffic. That remote system will require a G3X for the control of it. And the remote mount versions are for experimental aircraft only. So that's the kick planes and LSA and so forth. Panel mount, we do certified. So this can go into any aircraft now. And they come with or without a built-in GPS. So the simplest solution for ADSB out, if you need it, is a GTX 335 with the built-in GPS. So that way you get the required GPS position source as well as the ADSB out function. If you go for the 345, that adds in the ADSB in, which then gives you the traffic. And then the bottom one there is a combined GPS navigator with an ADSB in and out transponder built into it. If you look at it closely, you can actually see that there's a transponder button on the right-hand side of the display there where you control it from. So that's a very common unit that we sell now, very popular. Gives you the functions of a full IFR navigator as well as a transponder all in one box. GDL50. So this is a portable ADSB in receiver. So this doesn't do any out, so this only receives. It's a connects capable, and connects meaning the wireless. So it can wirelessly send data to ERA 660, the 760, the 796, which is the older version of the touchscreen portable GPS, as well as onto the Garmin Pilot app. So in the right-hand picture there, it shows you an image from the Garmin Pilot and how the traffic is depicted on the dedicated traffic page. And again, it shows you those vectors, those target trend vectors that I mentioned earlier. It also provides GPS position and backup attitude. The good thing about the GPS position is, for example, if you're running an iPad in your cockpit with the Garmin Pilot running, it will use the GPS position of the GDL50 rather than the internal GPS of the iPad, which means the battery will last longer and it'll run cooler. It comes with a built-in battery and up to 8 hours of charge on a single charge. It can also interface to the Garmin G3X system, either wired or wirelessly. It's there's the size of it, 12.5 centimeters by 8.6 and 3.3 centimeters high. So it's not a huge unit. Only weighs 340 grams. That's including the battery. There is also a remote version. So if you want to mount this in your aircraft permanently, you can use the remote version, which is the one on the bottom picture there. And then you will need it's powered by the aircraft power, but you will need remote antennas for it. Whereas the portable version above has built-in antennas. As I mentioned, it's an attitude source for the ERA and the Garmin Pilot apps. So it has a built-in AHRS, and you can see in the two images here. So on the ERA, it's giving you the attitude as well as on the Garmin Pilot. So this will be for a very simple installation. You can have an ERA 660 mounted onto your instrument panel, and the GDL50 is giving you not only attitude, that you can have this sort of a simple flight, a primary flight display, GPS based, but also will give you traffic. Well, since we're talking about portables, let's have a look at a couple of these. The Era 660, I mentioned that a couple of times already. So that's that's the 5-inch version of our portable aviation GPS. So 5-inch capacitive touchscreen, so similar technology to your mobile phone. So it's a very responsive touchscreen. It has the Garmin Sync the direct to button. So on every page, that direct to button is there. So for your navigation. Wireless connectivity, so that connects capable. Displays the ADS-B traffic, and the receiver requires that GDL. And I talked about the target trend, which was that the sort of vector on a traffic display, as well as terminal traffic. What that means is terminal traffic is aircraft on ground depicted in different color. So aircraft taxiing around, which are obviously not an issue if you're in the air. Come up, they're shown, but they're shown as brown. It can display weather. It's internet based, so it requires a connection. So in a normal case, the Era 660 would be connected to your phone via Wi-Fi, and then your phone is connected to the mobile network. So if you're flying low enough, you'll get internet connection, and you'll get live weather shown on there. Geo-reference flight charts, and the good thing that we have got air services charts available for this, so it will actually show charts for local areas, and electronic flight bag capability. So it can store, it can show you charts, and it's also work as a logbook as well. Here's a couple of the images. So the 3D vision. Safe Taxi is another database in it, and it's got Australian coverage as well. So it shows you all the taxiways and kind of safety areas and holds and so forth on an airport. The traffic. Weather and traffic overlaid on a moving map. So in this case, you can see there's some thunder activity going on, or storm activity going on just to the north of us. And there's also some traffic targets on the map. IFR VFR charts, so it overlays almost like a PDF version of a paper chart on the display. And there's a lot more. The Era 760, it's the big brother of the Era 660. So it's the largest portable aviation GPS that we do. And there's a couple of images of it. And I'll quickly go through this. It basically has the same features plus some more than the 660. The biggest difference is the size. You can kind of get the idea here. So 7-inch bright sunlight readable touchscreen displays, VFR and IFR capabilities. So this is the first portable GPS for Garmin that has got some IFR capabilities. In other words, it will draw an approach on there, and you can actually see an approach on that display right there. Displays ADS-B traffic and weather and more. This one has a built-in AHRS, so built-in attitude source. So if you hard mount this onto your panel, you can turn on the AHRS, and you get that sort of attitude display on here as well. Wi-Fi capable for that wireless internet weather, just like the 660. Integrates with select Garmin avionics, so you can actually plug this onto hardwire this into an autopilot, and the autopilot will follow the flight plan of a portable GPS. And it's up to 4 hours battery life. InReach. So this is our satellite navigator. So 2-way satellite communicators. They're not telephones. You can't talk with them. So they're purely for texting and sending messages. So they have an interactive SOS capability. Obviously, being an Iridium satellite service, there is a subscription required. It's starting at about $20 a month. There's different packages, obviously, and you can, if you just want to do one trip, you can buy like a 1 month's worth of access, and that's it. You can send and receive messages anywhere, and that is anywhere in the world. It comes with a built-in GPS. So every time you send every time you send a message from this device, it actually embeds a GPS coordinates to the message, and the receiver will, whoever's receiving the message can just press onto a link, and it will show you exact spot on the map, where the message actually was sent from. So 100% global coverage. It's impact resistant, water rated, IPX7, so it's water and dust proof. and it integrates with Garmin Pilot and also your mobile phone. So in the case of the InReach Mini, which is the smaller of the two there, you would do most of your work on your phone, and then that will link with this device, and the device will then send a message out. You can send messages out directly through the device as well, but it's a bit laborious because there's not many buttons on there, and you have to kind of type the message in a long way sort of thing. They both have a SOS button, so if you hit that, it'll trigger an alert at our monitoring station, and you will end up having a rescue services come and get you. The major difference between the two is obviously size. The InReach Explorer, which is the larger of the two, that's basically a handheld, sort of hiking GPS with the InReach capability built into it. So it's more of a it has a moving map and all this sort of stuff that you would expect from a handheld navigator, but also the InReach capabilities. I'll give you a bit of an idea of the size of it, of them. So here we go, the InReach. You can see it's pretty small unit, the InReach Mini. Whereas on the right-hand picture there, you can see the Explorer, and that kind of looks like an old Nokia mobile phone, really, doesn't it? So it's about the same size as well. Right, Smart Glide. So we announced this a few months back now, so where would you land if your engine failed now? So there's a little video that Cody's going to play for us now. Gives you a bit of an idea what this system is all about. So if you don't mind.
You know the airplane. You know the procedures. You know the flight plan. But would you be able to reach an airport if the engine failed now? In this stress of an emergency, you've got a helping hand, especially in unfamiliar areas or in IMC. Introducing Smart Glide, automation that reduces your workload with the press of a single button.
Smart Glide Active.
To find a preferred airport and even fly there with your Garmin Autopilot, so you can focus on essential tasks, land the airplane, and get safely back on the ground. Smart Glide. Only from Garmin.
Okay, Smart Glide. So what is it? It's the newest member of Garmin's autonomy family of autonomous flight technology. So you probably have heard of the Autoland. Well, it's all part of that family of technology. So in an event of an engine power loss, the Smart Glide will help reduce the workload by recommending an airport estimated to be within the glide range, and it creates a direct to waypoint to that airport, or direct to navigation. If you have a Garmin, engage the compatible Garmin Autopilot, so obviously the GFC 500 is compatible. It'll automatically engage the airspeed mode and the GPS mode, and it'll pitch for the best glide speed and fly the route near the airport. When this system is or when the G3X system is installed, you would set up some parameters in there for your particular aircraft, and one of the parameters is the best glide speed. It provides critical information to the pilot, such as the runway information. So it gives you length, type of surface, the width of the runway, and it's built on the previous G3 and XI and the G3X feature enhancements, including the glide range ring. So if you had a look at that video, when the gentleman pressed that button on the display, it kind of brought up this kind of ring around your area, and that was showing basically your range. And the best airport glide indicator. So it highlights the airports that it is possible for you to glide to. This requires either a GTN XI with the latest software or the G3X system, experimental G3X system with the latest software. That software is free to download, by the way, from our website if you happen to have a G3X system, the G3X Touch, I should say. So upon activation, it selects the best airport within the glide range. If for some reason you don't have a glide range, an airport within your glide range, it will immediately tell you about that. It will say, none in range, and actually verbally tell you that. And it will, in that case, it will just set up like a straight line flight. It selects, if you have several airports within your glide range, it typically selects the best one based on some logarithm about runway lengths and kind of terrain and proximity and so forth. It sets up a direct to the best airport and the airspeed hold for best glide speed. If there is no suitable airport available, like I mentioned, it'll just the system will roll wings level and sets the best glide speed. It automatically tunes the tower frequency of the selected airfield in the standby portion of the radio. It prompts you to squawk 7700, so emergency on your transponder, but you will have to actually physically press that button to turn that channel or that code. That's the same for the radio, so it tunes a 1215 into the standby comm as well. And what it does, it flies you to the overhead of the airport. So it doesn't try to take you to the end of the runway. It actually just takes you overhead at the airport, and it's up to you from that point to land the aircraft. And also on the displays, which I'm not showing here, it shows you the approximate altitude that you're going to be at when you arrive on top of the airfield. So it gives you an idea. And then if you happen to be very high at that point, then it's up to you to bring yourself down and for the landing. And that's it. So that's our presentation. So let's see here. So that's kind of our Q&A session here. So we have a few questions here. So I'll just verbally answer these. Can the 660 talk to the G5? It can. So you can, display navigation information on the G5 coming from the 660. So that'll be by the RS-232 interface. I've got some more specific questions about setting up a G5 here. I might just answer that via an email. Sorry, I'm just reading some of these questions here. So there's a question here. A gentleman has a Cub that has a Garmin 796, a GDL39, which is the predecessor of the GDL50, the ADS-B-in device. Still works fine. GTR 200 radio and a Garmin transponder. Been thinking about upgrading the GPS. I would, in the case of the 796, I would replace that with the Era 760. That would be the best. It's roughly the same size. You would have to replace the mounting cradle if you have some sort of cradle in the panel with the compatible. But yeah, that would be the best. However, if you with the 796, it's a good unit. So unless you have an issue with it, obviously I want to sell you a new GPS, but there's no real reason apart from getting some of the wireless connectivity. There's a question here. The watch is available in Oz, so I don't have any slides that I can show you right now. However, I could talk about them. So the watches available in Australia at the moment are the D2 Air, which is the lowest cost version of them, touchscreen watch based on the Garmin Venue. So it comes with all the normal Garmin fitness functions and also the aviation functions. So you can basically navigate with it. It will measure your pulse ox, your heart rate, all this sort of stuff. So you can set it up to give you, for example, prompts if your blood oxygen is a bit low. So if you happen to be flying very high and start going a little bit hypoxic, the watch can actually warn you. And then the next version from that is the D2 Delta PX. We've actually discontinued the two smaller versions, so we've still got the PX left, and the PX is the titanium version, a premium watch, and it has more or less the same features of the D2 Air. It has a little bit better connectivity with. Oh, excellent! Thank you. The D2 there's a D2 Delta PX shown in the display there in the screen. So that's a non-touch screen. You control it with the buttons. It has a battery life of about 6 weeks in the normal mode, or up to 6 weeks, and about 4 weeks in the smartphone mode. So you get all your notifications on there. And then if you run the built-in GPS on that, it gives you about 8 hours. I'll find your email. So there's an email here. So if you have a question, actually the best way you can get in touch with us is on the handout that you can download. There is an email address there for AU Aviation Marketing. So if you send an email to that, I can certainly answer it straight from that. I'll pick up that email and go from there. And also there's some of the questions here is more towards the technical support. So there's an email address and a phone number for our technical support guys as well. So you can certainly get answers from there if you have a more of an installation type of question. And and that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Some good questions there. And as you mentioned, download that handout section there where that's got some more contact information that Miko's put together for us as well. So thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Wonderful presentation there. And of course, we've got a couple of Garmin products that are being available within our prizes for National Safety Month as well. We've got one of those watches and we've got a portable GPS. So
Absolutely.
Thanks again for the support, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
No problem. Thank you very much. And hope to see you all at the next, as the events open up, hopefully in the 2022. We'll start seeing a bit of face-to-face, and come and see me. I'll be at the Wings Over Illawarra as well if someone's coming, so come and have a chat.
Wonderful. And we hope to see you out in the field very soon as well as things start to open up. So
all right.
Thanks again, Miko, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you. All righty. Thanks, everyone. So that wraps up this presentation for this afternoon. We do have one final presentation coming up very soon from CASA on ADSB. So tune in for that final presentation there. Obviously, for each presentation you watch, you go in the draw to win many of our prizes that we've got available through National Safety Month, including a couple mentioned there from Garmin. Once again, a huge thank you to Garmin, who is a gold sponsor of National Safety Month. Please download that handout from the handout section there and contact Garmin if you require any further information on those products. We'd once again like to thank all of our National Safety Month sponsors who enable us to give away more than $10,000 worth of prizes throughout October. And that's today's schedule there. One final presentation this afternoon, ADSB for Enhancing Situational Awareness from CASA. So thanks again once more for joining us this afternoon, and we hope to see you at the next presentation.